This is an entire year's reading, very quickly condensed into one video. Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife and today I am taking you through the 50 books that I read to tick off every prompt for this year's PopSugar reading challenge. I do this challenge every single year. It's one of my favorite things to do. I think I've been doing it since about 2015, so I am coming up to my 10-year anniversary, and this is only the second time in a row that I have actually managed to finish all 50 prompts. So I have got a list here of every prompt and every book that I read off for them. I'm going to really quickly go through them. I'm not going to give too much about the plot, but if I do need to explain how it relates to the prompt, I am going to give you a little bit of a hint on that. So 50 books to get through. Let's go. A book you meant to read in 2022, I read A State of Emergency by Richard Chambers. A book you bought from an independent bookstore, I read Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. A book about a vacation, I read Something Wilder by Christina Lauren. A first-time author, I read Lease on Love by Fallon Ballard. A book with mythical creatures, I read Witchlings by Clara A. Ortega. A book about a forbidden romance, I read Mistakes Are Made by Meryl Wisner. A book with girl in the title, I read Girl Gone Viral by Alicia Rai. A celebrity memoir, I read Love That Story by Jonathan Van Ness. A book with a colour in the title, I read Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. A romance with a fat lead, I read Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. A book about or set in Hollywood, I read From Hollywood with Love by Scott Maslow. This was actually a non-fiction book that was about rom-coms and the impact that it's had on us. A book published in spring 2023, I read Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. A book published the year you were born, I read Stacey's Choice by Anne M. Martin. This was published in 1992. A modern retelling of a classic, I read Pride, Prejudice and Other Flavours by Sonali Dev. This is, as you can tell from the title, a retelling of Pride and Prejudice. A book with a song lyric in the title, I read Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. A book where the main character's name is in the title, I read Strange Sally Diamond by Liz Nugent. A book with a love triangle, I read The Rachel Incident by Caroline O'Donoghue. A book that has been banned or challenged in any state in 2022, I read Nick and Charlie by Alice Oseman. A book that fulfills your favourite prompt from a previous PopSugar reading challenge, I read Business or Pleasure by Rachel Lynn Solomon. This was for the prompt, I think it was either last year or the year before, of a character that works in your dream job or in your current profession, and the characters in this book are newspaper journalists. The book becoming a movie or TV series in 2023, I read Heartstopper Volume 3 by Alice Oseman. A book set in the decade you were born, I read Dawn and the Older Boy by Anne M. Martin, which was set in the 1990s. A book with a queer lead, I read Paris Dalencourt Is About to Crumble by Alexis Hall. A book with a map, I read Her Majesty's Secret Coven by Juno Dawson. A book with a rabbit on the cover, I read The House at Pooh Corner by A.A. Milne. For a book with just text on the cover, I read Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid. The shortest book on your TBR by pages, I read Tales from the Cafe by Toshikazu Kazaguchi. This had, I think, about 198 pages. A book talk recommendation, I read Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. A book you bought secondhand, I read The Man Who Died Twice by Richard Osman. A book your friend recommended, I read Thank You for Listening by Julia Whalen. This was recommended to me by Michelle from Michelle's Library. A book that is on a celebrity book club list, I read Romantic Comedy by Curtis Sittenfeld. A book about a family, I read And Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer by Frederick Bachman. A book that comes out in the second half of 2023, I read Iris Kelly Doesn't Date by Ashley Herring Blake. A book about an athlete or sport, I read The Fake Boyfriend Fiasco by Talia Hibbert. A historical fiction book, I read A Million to One by Adiba Jagadar. A book about divorce, I read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. A book that you think your best friend would like, I read Happy Place by Emily Henry. A book that you should have read in high school, I read I Heart New York by Lindsay Kelk. A book that you read at least 10 years ago, I read Under the Hawthorn Tree by Marita Collin McKenna. A book that you wish you could read again for the first time, I read Heartstopper Volume 1 by Alice Oseman. A book by an author with the same initials as you, I read The Fiancé Farce by Alexandria Bellfleur. So, for the advanced prompts, the first one was a book that was written during NaNoWriMo, for which I read Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. A book based on a popular movie, I kind of played around with this one, and I read Love That Journey for Me by Dr. Emily Garside, which is a kind of a guide through all Schitt's Creek. A book that takes place entirely in one day, I read A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. A book that was self-published, I read Only If It's You by Chloe Leese. A book that started out as fan fiction, I read Stuck on You by Ali Hazelwood. A book with a pet character, I read Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. A book about a holiday that is not Christmas, I read X's and O's by Amy Leah. This is focused around Valentine's Day. A book that features 2 languages, I read The Worst Best Man by Mia Sosa. In this book, the main character speaks English and Portuguese. The longest book on your TBR by pages, I read Rich People Problems by Kevin Kwan. This had, I think, maybe 544 pages. Finally, a book with alliteration in the title, I read Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kazaguchi. Those are the books that I read to fulfill every single prompt for this year's PopSugar Reading Challenge. Which of those sounds like it would have been your favourite prompt to tick off, and what would you have read for it? If you'd love to leave me a comment but you can't think of anything you like to say, then just leave me the green tick emoji. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I have new videos up every week. Now, get on out of here.